The first scream of the desert wind carried a warning someone was dying out there, and Mara Coleman felt it before she ever saw him. At nearly 7 months pregnant, her steps were slower now, but her senses were sharper than ever. Living alone on the edge of Bristle Rock Canyon after her husband's death had trained her to notice every shift of sound, every shadow that dragged across the blistered earth. But the sound she heard now wasn't a coyote cry or the scrape of a wagon wheel. It was a groan, raw, human, close. Mara tightened her grip on the tin water pail, her other hand instinctively going to her belly. "Easy there, little one," she whispered. "Mama's just lookin'." Her small cabin, made of red clay and stubborn hope, sat on the only patch of ground her late husband Jake ever managed to cultivate. Everything else was emptiness. The desert stretched wide, cracked, breathless under the noon sun. And that was where she saw him. A man now, the shape of one crawling toward her fence line. His fingers dragged through the dirt like he was trying to anchor himself against death. His shirt was torn, coated with dust and dried blood. His long black hair spilled over his shoulders in tangled ropes. And his lips, cracked, swollen, desperate, were forming one word over and over: water. Please. Mara didn't hesitate. She walked straight toward him, even though every sensible part of her said she should keep her distance from any strange man collapsed in the desert. But grief had carved something strong inside her. Compassion had kept her alive, and no human being was going to die within reach of her hands if she could stop it. When she reached him, he tried to lift his head, but it shook like loose timber. "Easy," she said gently, kneeling beside him. "Don't try to talk." She lifted the pail, tipping it so the cold water trickled against his lips. He drank like a man who hadn't tasted water in days, because he hadn't. She felt his body tremble with every swallow. "That's enough for now," she whispered. He collapsed onto his side, breathing heavily. But he was alive. Alive because she stopped to save him. His eyes, dark, sharp even beneath exhaustion, rose to her face. "Why?" "Help me?" he rasped. Mara glanced toward the canyon, its shadows stretching like open jaws. Something about the desert looked disturbed, gouged, torn up by struggle. "Because no one deserves to die alone," she murmured. His jaw trembled, as if those words meant something heavier than she could know. She looped an arm under his shoulder and hauled him to his feet. He was far heavier than he looked, tall and muscular despite being half dead. His body leaned into her with more trust than she expected. "Can you walk?" she asked. He nodded weakly. Each step was agony for him, she could tell. But together, with her bracing his side, they made their way slowly toward her cabin. Sweat dampened her back, her spine ached, but she refused to let go. The baby kicked hard under her ribs as if urging her onward. Inside, she guided him onto the cot beside the fireplace. "What's your name?" she asked. The man blinked slowly, eyes trying to focus. "Ronan," he whispered. "All right, Ronan, rest." He obeyed instantly, unconscious before she finished the sentence. Mara stayed by his side for nearly an hour, wiping dirt from his face, cooling his forehead with a damp cloth, watching the rise and fall of his chest. This stranger, this man the desert tried to claim, stirred something deeper than simple concern. Something like recognition. Not of his face, but his pain. She knew what it was to lose everything. When he finally opened his eyes again, evening shadows stretched across the room. "You saved my life," he said quietly. Mara sat back a little, trying to keep the moment from feeling too intimate. Anyone would have done the same. "No," he replied, voice cracking. "Not out here?" She said nothing. Ronan swallowed hard. "Someone tried to kill me." Mara froze. Not because she feared him, but because something about his tone, the raw truth of it, told her the danger wasn't over. Her eyes swept the windows. "What happened?" she asked. Ronan shifted painfully, wincing as he adjusted against the pillow. Ambushed on the ridge. 3 men. Didn't know them. They were waiting. Tracking me. Why would they track you? Ronan hesitated, not with uncertainty, but with a secret. Then he said something that made Mara's blood run cold. Because I'm not who people think I am. And if those men find me alive, they won't stop until the job's done. A heavy silence filled the cabin. Mara swallowed. Well, you're safe here. No one knows about this place. Ronan's eyes locked onto hers, intense, grateful, but haunted. You shouldn't have helped me, he whispered. Mara stiffened. Why? Because saving me, he rasped, just put you and your unborn child in danger too. A low rumble echoed in the canyon outside. Then another. Not thunder. Horses. Multiple. Riding hard. Coming straight toward her cabin. The thunder of hooves rolled across the canyon floor like a coming storm, violent, fast, and far too close. Mara felt her heartbeat leap into her throat. Her small cabin had survived harsh winters, dust storms, and loneliness, but she had never once faced armed men thundering toward her doorstep. Ronan struggled upright on the cot, his breath tight and ragged. They found me. Mara's voice came out hushed but steady. How many? 3, he said, jaw clenched. Same ones who ambushed me. They won't leave witnesses. Mara's hand instinctively slid to her belly. The child kicked. Even the baby seemed to sense the danger. You need to lie back down, she said. Ronan shook his head. I can stand if I have to. You'll bleed out before you reach the door. His fingers curled hard around the edge of the cot. She could see the tremor in his arms, the way his injuries pulled at him like anchors. But his gaze, sharp, dark, determined, made it clear he would crawl through fire rather than let harm come to her. Mara, he said quietly, I don't want them finding you with me. They'll think you know something. I do know something, she whispered. You're hurt and you need help. But even as she spoke, she moved to the window, lifting the curtain just an inch. 3 riders were silhouetted against the dying sun, dust curling around their horses' legs. They weren't rushing anymore. They were confident, certain. Predators who knew their prey had nowhere else to run. The lead rider raised a hand, signaling the others to spread out. They're scouting your property, Ronan said behind her. I can see that. Mara's mind raced. Jake had been a carpenter before he died. The cabin he built was solid, but it wasn't a fortress. She had a hunting rifle above the door, one she hadn't fired since the day Jake passed. She knew how to use it, but pregnancy slowed her, made her vulnerable. She turned toward Ronan. Do you have any weapons on you? He gave a tired half smile. If I had, I wouldn't be in this mess. Can you shoot? Very well, he said. But I can't lift my right arm. Left-handed, she muttered. Better than nothing. The riders drew closer. At 50 yards, Mara could see their faces dust-covered, eyes narrow, guns holstered but ready. Their leader, a wiry man with a scar slicing through his beard, scanned the cabin like he owned the land beneath it. Mara stepped away from the window and grabbed her rifle. I'll talk to them, she said. Ronan pushed against the cot as if to stop her, but pain racked his body. Mara, don't open that door. I won't, she promised. But if they think we're scared, they'll force themselves in. She marched to the door and braced herself. The knock came like a gunshot, 3 hard raps, demanding, uninvited. Mara inhaled deeply. Who's there? The man outside chuckled. Name's Dax Rowan. We're looking for someone. A man passed through this way. Hurt, bleeding. Might have come begging at your door. Mara kept her tone flat. Haven't seen anyone. Ma'am, Dax drawled. No offense, but your voice sounds a touch nervous. Mara tightened her hold on the rifle. Being alone in the middle of the desert tends to do that. A pause. A long one. You mind if we take a look around? Dax asked. Yes, I do mind. The silence that followed twisted cold beneath her skin. Ronan whispered urgently behind her. They won't leave. Not without checking. Dax's voice came again, quieter, deadlier. Ma'am, open the door. Mara swallowed. No. For a moment, she thought he might shoot the lock and storm inside. But instead, Dax let out a slow, amused breath. All right then, he said. We'll look ourselves. Mara's heart hammered. Her land stretched wide barn, chicken coop, water barrels, Jake's old tool shed. They had too many places to search. Back door, Ronan rasped. Is it barred? Yes. Good. They'll circle around. You have minutes. Mara helped Ronan sit up straighter. His face was pale but determined. They want something from you, Mara said. Something worth killing for. Ronan met her gaze. They want me dead. Nothing else. That's not the whole story. His jaw flexed. Outside, 2 riders dismounted, splitting off to the sides of the cabin. Mara, Ronan's voice softened. Jake built this place strong. Trust the walls, not them. She flinched at the mention of Jake's name, her late husband. The man she had loved since she was 19. He'd been gone 2 years. Yet saying his name aloud felt like stirring ashes. I miss him, she whispered. I know, Ronan said, surprising her. I can see it. You barely know me. Ronan held her gaze, something unreadable shimmering in his eyes. Some hurts don't need explaining. Before she could respond, the back window rattled, someone testing it. Mara nearly raised her rifle, but Ronan stopped her. Wait. One of the men peered inside. Empty. He shouted. The lie comforted her only for a heartbeat. The third man, Dax, remained at the front door. His voice carried through the wood. Ma'am, you got exactly 10 seconds before we help ourselves in. Mara's mind snapped back to survival. Ronan, if they break the door, what do I do? Stand behind me. You can't even stand. Ronan gritted his teeth. I can for 10 seconds. His stubbornness was infuriating and admirable all at once. The window shattered. Shards rained across the floor as one of the men climbed inside, boots crunching over broken glass. Mara spun, rifle aimed, breath sharp and burning. Hold it right there, she ordered. The intruder froze. A lanky man with dirty blonde hair and eyes like broken glass. He smirked. Well now. Lady's got claws. I'll shoot. Not with that belly, he sneered, flicking his eyes to her pregnant form. You won't risk, Fallon. He stepped forward. Ronan lunged from the cot. It wasn't graceful, it wasn't even strong. But he moved with such raw desperation that he reached the man before Mara could fire. Ronan slammed his shoulder into the intruder's chest. Both men crashed to the floor. Mara gasped. Ronan groaned in agony, his wound tearing open. The intruder snarled, wrestling for dominance. Outside, Dax shouted, Jonas? You good? Get in here. Jonas screamed. Another window shattered. Boots hit the ground. Mara had seconds. Ronan gripped the man's wrist, twisting hard. Jonas howled, dropping his pistol. Mara fired. The bullet hit the floor inches from Jonas's hand, but the warning shot worked. He froze. Then Ronan, with a final burst of strength, heaved Jonas toward the wall. Jonas hit the wooden boards with a sickening thud and slumped, unconscious. Mara door! Ronan shouted. She spun just as the front door exploded inward. Dax stormed through, fury blazing. Mara raised the rifle. He raised his gun, but neither shot, because Dax's eyes landed on Ronan, bleeding, weak, and yet somehow still standing enough to shield her. A twisted smile spread across Dax's lips. "Well, hell," he murmured. "Ronan Hale lives after all." Mara blinked. "Hale?" she whispered. Ronan's eyes closed briefly. "Mara, I didn't tell you everything." Dax cocked his head. "Didn't tell her he owns half of Blackstone Ridge? Didn't tell her he's the man we're supposed to make disappear so the town can be taken over?" Mara's jaw dropped. "Owner of half the ridge?" Ronan, this half-dead stranger, owned all the mining cabins, the lumber grounds, the land rights that fed the entire region? "You're a land baron?" she whispered in disbelief. Ronan didn't look proud. He looked ashamed. Dax's grin widened. "And when he dies, those cabins and that land get sold off piece by piece to men like me." Ronan whispered, "Mara, get back." Dax raised his gun. But before he could fire, something shifted outside, the sound of more riders, many riders coming fast. Dax stiffened. "What in?" Mara peeked past him. Lanterns, rifles, a full group of horsemen riding in formation. A voice thundered across the yard, "Drop your weapons." Dax cursed under his breath. "Town deputies." Ronan exhaled weakly. "Took them long enough." The deputies surrounded the cabin in seconds. Dax and his remaining man froze. Mara finally lowered the rifle. And as the deputies burst inside, guns raised, the last thing Ronan whispered before collapsing was, "Mara, I'm not done protecting you." Ronan drifted in and out of consciousness as the deputies swarmed into the cabin, their boots thudding against the floorboards Jake had once laid so carefully. Mara clutched the rifle to her chest, breath shaking as adrenaline drained out of her body. The three intruders were disarmed, shoved against the wall, and bound with rope-dot Deputy Marshal Warren Crowley, a tall, broad-shouldered man with iron-gray hair, approached Mara first. "Ma'am, you injured?" "No," Mara answered quickly, though her trembling legs said otherwise. "But Ronan, he needs a doctor. He's losing blood." Warren nodded. "We'll get him some help." Mara's eyes flicked to Ronan's slumped form. His skin was too pale, almost gray. His chest rose shallowly. The earlier burst of strength that allowed him to defend her had cost him dearly. "Hold on," she whispered, kneeling beside him. Ronan's eyelids fluttered as he fought to focus on her. "You? Okay?" "I'm fine," she said, brushing dust from his forehead. "You saved me." A faint smile tugged at his lips. "Seemed fair. You saved me first." Deputies lifted Ronan gently, laying him on a makeshift stretcher. He didn't resist. Mara could see his pain in every breath he took. Warren Crowley stepped beside her. "Ma'am, your cabin's compromised. We'll escort you to town. It's safer there." Mara hesitated, glancing around at the shattered windows, bullet holes, and splintered door. The place Jake built with his bare hands was broken, violated. It made her chest tighten, but she nodded. "I'll go with Ronan." Crowley tipped his hat. "As you should." The intruders were dragged outside first, Dax Rowan cursing under his breath, Jonas limping. And the third man sullen and bleeding from a blow Ronan had delivered earlier. "You'll regret this." Dax snarled at Mara as he passed. "You're meddling in something bigger than you." Crowley planted a hand on Dax's shoulder, shoving him forward. "Shut it." Mara didn't respond. But inside, a cold wake of fear rippled through her. She wasn't just harboring a wounded stranger. She was entangled in something far larger and far more dangerous than she had understood. As the deputies finished securing the prisoners, Warren turned to Mara. "Get your things. We ride now before night settles." Mara looked at the cabin, broken but still full of memories. Jake's old boots by the door. The quilt he bought her from the Navajo woman in town. The rocking chair where she'd first felt her baby kick. Leaving it felt like leaving him all over again. Ronan noticed her hesitation, even from the stretcher. "Mara, go, please." His voice, though faint, held enough urgency to shake her loose. She snatched the few belongings she could carry: blanket, water canteen, a small bag of essentials, and stepped outside. The sun had dipped behind the canyon, leaving the sky washed with purple and dying gold. Deputies hoisted Ronan to a wagon bed lined with sacks. Mara climbed in beside him as the wagon lurched forward. She placed her hand over Ronan's. His fingers curled weakly around hers. Bristle. Rock Canyon disappeared behind them as the trail opened into the wide valley. The ride was quiet save for the wheels grinding over uneven earth and the soft clinks of horse tack. Mara's eyes never left Ronan. His breaths grew ragged. She squeezed his hand. "Stay awake. You hear me, Mara?" His voice was thin, a whisper slipping between pain and exhaustion. "There's something I need to tell you. Before town." She leaned closer. "What is it?" But before he could speak, the wagon hit a rut. Ronan grimaced, eyes rolling back, his body tensing. "Stop the wagon!" Mara cried. Warren pulled the reins. The horses slowed. Mara pressed her ear to Ronan's chest. "He's still breathing," she said, though her heart hammered in fear. "But we need to hurry." Warren nodded. "Town is 10 minutes out." Ronan's fingers twitched, reaching toward her. Mara guided his hand into hers. "You're going to be all right," she whispered, though she wasn't sure if he heard her. Blackstone Ridge came into view. Lanterns glowed in the dusk, lining the wooden porches of saloons, shops, and cabins. The sound of hammers, laughter, and distant music drifted through the valley. The town looked peaceful, ordinary. But Mara knew the truth now. Peace in the West always came with a price. The wagon rolled to a stop in front of a small clinic. Dr. Henry Malloy rushed out, wiping his hands on a blood-stained apron. "What happened?" Malloy demanded. "Ambush," Warren replied. "He's been bleeding since this afternoon." Malloy examined Ronan quickly, face tightening. "Bring him in." They carried Ronan inside and set him on a table. Mara stayed close, refusing to be pushed aside. Ronan's eyes flickered open just long enough to meet hers. "Stay," he murmured. "I'm not going anywhere." Malloy cut away the torn shirt and cleaned the wound, a deep gash across. Ronan sighed and another bullet grazed along his ribs. Mara flinched at the sight of so much blood. Malloy worked quickly, sewing, bandaging, wiping sweat from his brow. An hour passed. Finally, Malloy exhaled hard. "He'll live. But he needs rest. Lots of it." Mara let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Warren stepped into the doorway. "Ma'am, when you're ready, I want to talk. There's something you ought to know about Ronan Hawley." Mara glanced at Ronan, pale but alive. "Tell me now." Warren nodded slowly. "Follow me." They stepped outside onto the wooden walkway. Cool night air brushed her skin. "What is Ronan not telling me?" she asked. Warren rubbed his jaw. "Ronan Hawley ain't just a wealthy landholder. He's the legal owner of every mining cabin and half the ranching property from here to the river." Mara swallowed. She knew that part. "But what he hasn't told you," Warren continued, "is why men want him dead." "Why?" she whispered. Warren's eyes hardened. "A group of investors, dangerous men, want to take over this region. Someone found a document proving Ronan is the rightful owner of all the Ridge land contracts. They need him gone to claim the territory." Mara's stomach dropped. "So it's about land?" "Not just land," Warren said. "Control, power, money, water rights, timber, everything." Mara exhaled shakily. And the men who attacked him? Guns for hire. The first wave. More will come if they think he's alive. Mara felt cold wash through her bones. Ma'am, Warren added gently, I need to ask. Why was Ronan at your cabin? Mara looked away. He collapsed near my fence. I couldn't leave him to die. Warren nodded in respect. You've got a good heart, but be cautious. A good heart can get tangled in dangerous things. Mara met his eyes. What kind of man is Ronan Hale? Warren paused, then answered honestly. A decent one. Honest, but carrying more burdens than most men twice his age. And loyal to a fault. Mara felt something tighten in her chest, a strange, unwelcome warmth. Before she could respond, a deputy ran up. Marshal! Ronan Hale's awake. Mara's heart charged. She hurried inside. Ronan lay propped up on pillows, eyes cloudy but aware. Mara rushed to his side. You scared me half to death, she whispered. Ronan gave a faint smile. Didn't plan on doing that. Malloy hovered nearby. Don't let him talk too much, he warned before stepping outside. Mara sat at the edge of the bed. Ronan, Warren told me why those men attacked you. Ronan's gaze darkened. What did he say? That you own half of Blackstone Ridge, and someone wants you gone. Ronan exhaled slowly. There's more. Mara waited. Ronan swallowed hard. Before I collapsed at your cabin, I was on my way to deliver a deed transfer. A deed transfer? Mara echoed. To who? Ronan hesitated, then met her eyes. To Jake. Mara froze. Jake? My Jake? Ronan nodded weakly. Jake never told you, but he saved my life once. Years ago. I owed him. I was going to give him ownership of a small cabin plot, a place he could expand your homestead. Mara felt the world tilt. Jake never said, why didn't he tell me? Because he planned to surprise you, Ronan whispered. But he passed before I could reach him. Tears blurred Mara's vision. Ronan reached for her hand slowly, painfully. Mara, your husband was a good man. I'm sorry you lost him. She choked back a sob. I'm sorry you didn't get to thank him. Ronan squeezed her hand gently. I thank him now. Through you. Silence folded around them, warm, aching, honest. Then Mara realized something important. Ronan, she whispered, if you were riding to give Jake land, then you were traveling alone, and those men found you because, he nodded. They knew I was trying to sign everything over. They tried to kill me before I could. Mara's breath caught. Which means, Ronan continued weakly, they won't stop. Not until I'm buried. Mara's hand tightened around his. Then I won't let them. Ronan's eyes softened. You've already done more than I deserve. No, she said firmly. You deserve to live. And I won't let anyone take that from you. Outside, footsteps echoed. Warren Crowley called through the door. Mara, we need to talk. Something's happened at the jail. Ronan's eyes widened. Mara stood slowly. What happened? Warren's voice was sharp. Dax Rowan escaped. Mara's heart dropped as Warren Crowley's boots thundered down the clinic hallway. He stopped in the doorway, hands on his hips, breathing hard. Dax Rowan's gone, Warren said grimly. He slipped a deputy, cut through the back wall, and vanished into the hills. Which means, he's coming here, Mara finished, her voice barely more than a whisper. Ronan pushed himself upright on the clinic bed despite Malloy's orders to rest. Pain flashed across his face, but he didn't lie back down. His dark eyes fixed on Warren. How long ago? Ronan asked. Maybe an hour, Warren replied. Tracks lead toward the ridge. Ronan shook his head. No, he's coming to finish what he started. And he'll come straight through town to do it. Mara stepped beside him. You're not fighting anyone like this. Ronan looked at her, not angry, heartbroken. Mara, I brought danger to your door. I have to end this. You don't, she insisted. You can't even stand. Warren raised a hand. You two can argue all you want after I get this town on alert. He tossed Ronan a small revolver. Just in case. Ronan caught it clumsily with one hand, wincing. Malloy burst in, flustered. My clinic ain't a battlefield. If you're planning to shoot anyone, do it outside. Warren ignored him. Mara, stay with him. I'll send deputies to keep watch. He hurried out, shouting orders. Ronan leaned back, sweating despite the cool air. His breath trembled. Mara wiped his forehead with a damp cloth. You should rest, she said softly. Can't, Ronan murmured. Not until this is done. Mara sat on the stool beside him, watching his tired face. Why didn't you tell me sooner? About coming to Jake, about the deed. Ronan gave a weary smile. Because I didn't want to change how you looked at me. I wanted to earn your trust on my own, not because of what I owned or did. Mara swallowed. You did earn it. His eyes softened. Then let me protect you. You already have, she said. The room fell quiet, thick with things neither of them knew how to say. A sudden ruckus outside shattered the silent shouts, hoofbeats, and a chilling cry that sliced through the night like a blade. He's here! A deputy yelled. Ronan swung his legs off the bed, gasping as the wound tore at him. No, Mara grabbed his arm. You're bleeding again. Ronan steadied himself on the wall. If Dax gets in here, you won't survive. Neither will your baby. Mara froze. Fear shot through her, but not fear for herself. Fear for her child. For the first time, a tremor rattled through her bones. Ronan saw it. Mara, he whispered, brushing her cheek with trembling fingers, Jake would want you safe. Let me keep my promise to him. Her breath caught. You barely know me. Why fight so hard? Ronan's jaw tightened. His voice came out raw. Because the moment you knelt by me in that dust and gave me water, I saw something I didn't think existed in this world anymore. Kindness, goodness, hope. I'm not letting that die. Not again. Mara's throat tightened. She grabbed his hand. Then I'm fighting with you. Before Ronan could argue, a shattering crash hit the front of the clinic. Malloy screamed, "My window!" Boots hit the floor. Deputies shouted. Gunfire cracked through the night. Ronan gripped the revolver with white knuckles. He's forcing his way inside. Mara hide. I'm not leaving you. He stared at her fear, admiration, and something deeper all tangled in his gaze. Mara, please. The plea in his voice cut through her stubbornness. She nodded reluctantly and stepped behind the supply cabinet, out of direct sight, but close enough to reach Ronan if needed. The door blew open with a violent kick. Dax Rowan stumbled inside, blood streaked down his face from earlier, eyes wild with hatred. Well, well, he hissed, gun aimed. Thought you'd be dead by now, Halle, stubborn bastard. Ronan braced himself against the cabinet, barely standing. Dax, let the woman go. This is between us. Oh, I ain't leaving the widow out, Dax sneered. She ruined my job, too. Ronan raised the revolver, though his arm shook. Take one more step and I'll... A gunshot thundered. Ronan staggered as Dax's bullet grazed his shoulder. Before Dax could fire again, a second shot cracked, this time from Mara. She had grabbed Ronan's backup pistol from the counter. Her hand shook violently, but her aim was true. Dax cried out, dropping to one knee as the bullet hit his thigh. Mara, Ronan yelled, horrified she was in view. Dax, in rage and desperation, swung his gun toward her. Ronan moved before thinking, throwing himself between them. The gun fired. Ronan collapsed into Mara's arms. "No!" she cried, her scream echoing through the clinic. Dax tried to stand, but deputies swarmed in at last, tackling him to the ground. Warren Crowley ran forward, cursing under his breath as he saw Ronan. "Damn it, Malloy. Get in here." Malloy rushed in, pushing Mara aside gently but firmly. "I need space." Mara backed away only an inch, tears blurring her vision. "Please," she whispered. "Save him." Ronan's breath was shallow. Blood pooled beneath him. Malloy tore open his shirt, pressing claws against the new wound. "Hold on, Ronan," Warren said gruffly. "You're too damn stubborn to die." Ronan's eyes fluttered. "Mara," she leaned close, taking his hand. "I'm here. I'm right here." He blinked slowly, his voice a faint whisper. "If I don't make it, promise me." "No," she cried. "Don't talk like that. Promise me," he insisted. "You'll take the deed. The cabin. Everything. Jake would have wanted it for you." Her tears fell onto his hand. "I don't want the land. I want you." His breath hitched. Mara realized what she'd said. Ronan stared at her like he needed to memorize her face. "Then I'll fight. I'll fight as long as you're here." Malloy pushed her back. "Let me work." Mara stepped away, shaking, clutching her belly. Pain, real fear twisted inside her. She whispered to her unborn child, "Please. Stay calm, please." The baby kicked hard. Warren rested a hand on Mara's shoulder. "He'll make it," he said quietly. "He has to." Hours passed. The battle outside died. The deputies secured Dax, chaining him in irons this time. Malloy worked tirelessly, sewing, binding, cleaning Ronan's wounds. Mara watched every moment, praying silently. At last, Malloy let out a weary sigh. "He'll live. But he'll need weeks to recover." Mara nearly collapsed from relief. She rushed to Ronan's side. He was pale, but breathing evenly now. His eyes opened slowly. "You stayed." "Of course I stayed," Mara whispered, brushing his hair back. "I'm not leaving." He reached for her hand. "Did we win?" She laughed through tears. "We won." Ronan exhaled shakily. "Good, because after all this, I want to live. For real this time." Mara leaned close. "You will." He hesitated, eyes softening. "With you?" Her breath caught. "If you'll have me?" Ronan's fingers curled around hers. "Mara, I've wanted you from the moment you saved me." She smiled a real, warm smile she hadn't felt since Jake's passing. "Then rest, heal. We'll figure out everything else together." Ronan nodded faintly. "Mara, thank you." "For what?" "For giving me water," he whispered. "For giving me a reason to live." Her tears fell again, but this time they were full of hope, not grief. Weeks later, Ronan walked slowly, carefully, but on his own. Mara guided him down the clinic steps, the warm sun bathing them both. Deputies tipped their hats as they passed, and Warren Crowley grinned. "Good to see you upright, Hala." "Good to be upright," Ronan replied with a wry smile. Mara stood close beside him. "Where now?" Ronan looked toward the distant ridge toward the land Jake had once dreamed of expanding. "I'd like to show you the cabin I meant to give Jake," he said gently. "But now, if you'll let me, I'd like to share it with you." Mara felt her heart swell. Her child kicked softly, as if answering for her. She intertwined her fingers with Ronan's. "Let's go home," she said. Together, they walked toward the horizon, toward a future born not of fear, but of love, gratitude, and the promise of a second chance neither had expected.